Hi, this is Amy from Amy's Free Motion Quilting Adventures, and I had a reader ask about how to start and finish my thread tails, and I did a video on that a long time ago, but it's probably one of my first videos and maybe not quite as clear. I'm doing it a little differently now, but of course you always start by holding your top thread and do one stitch down and back up and pull your tail up. Now that tail is very short because I used my automatic thread cutter on my 6600, Janome 6600, so it's a little short to pull out. I'm going to pull it out. I have two different thread colors on this, and when I start to quilt, I make sure both threads are underneath the foot. I line up my needle with where my bobbin thread came up, and I put my needle down. You can free motion quilt without having to put your needle down or have a machine with the needle down capability, but it sure makes it a heck of a lot easier. I do a couple stitches right in place, real close to each other. I do not usually tie things off when I start by stitching several times in one place or going back and forth over a spot. That's just how I work. Now I'm going to go ahead and pretend I'm at the end of my stitching, raise my needle up. I'm using my knee lift to raise my presser foot. That releases the pressure on the tension discs, and then I can move my thread, my piece away from the needle, and I'm going to show what I do when I want to stop and start really close so that I don't have to restart my needle and thread all the time, or restart my threads, pull them up to the top with every little stop and start. I go off to the side, needle down and up once, and I can come back over, and because I didn't cut those threads, they're out of the way for if I want to go ahead and continue on stitching over this way. I hope that's clear. And I'm going to show you a couple of different ways. Well, one way to end here. This is how the long armers do it, where you can pull up your bobbin thread as you end. Needle up, pull away, grab the thread. I've lifted my presser foot, you see that? That's because I wanted to have some slack in that top thread and pull a little length away. Come back to where I stopped stitching and drop my needle down once, right there where the bobbin came up at, where the thread stitches ended. I don't think I'm making myself clear. Did you see I pulled up a loop when I came back through? And I just pull that loop, that's the bobbin thread, right off. And then if I wanted to just snip my threads here, I could if I had tied them off. You did not see me tie them off because I usually don't. But I can come up here to that loop of bobbin thread and cut here. I'm looking through the camera, I can't find my thread. There we go. And that leaves me just a nice little thread tail, but it leaves the top and the bobbin thread coming up. There we go, at the top. Now I do also have my thread that is still attached to my bobbin coming up there, so I just pull my piece away so that I don't have that going on. So there's my top thread, my bobbin thread. I did not get it pulled up exactly where I should have, but like I said, I tend to do this with the camera right there in between me and my machine. And now I'm going to show you, I'll show you with this first spot how I tie off these ends. I'm going to pull the camera away just a little bit. Take my gloves off so I can use my fingers a little better. I'm using a, people call them a cheater needle, an easy thread needle. I don't know what you call it, but this is what it is. It's got a split right here where you push the threads in. And what I do is I take my needle, put my needle down so I don't lose it. And I just do an overhand knot See if I gave myself enough room here between the camera and my quilt. Everybody wants a close-up of my knuckle, don't you? Alright, so I've made a knot. Find my needle. And I'm going to take my needle, stick it in that knot, and pull those tails. So there's a nice little knot right there where my stitching started. And I'm going to insert my needle into my quilt sandwich right here, as close to where that bobbin thread came up as possible. Then I just snap my threads into the eye of that easy threading needle. I leave a little slack. That is so that when I pull my needle through, that it's not tugging before the end of the needle comes out over here. Alright, you just ran that needle through the batting in between the backing and the top fabric. Pull it out, and then I just give it a little tug, and the knot pops right in there. Oh, if I had done this with some batik, you probably might have actually heard the snap of the knot going in. And then I like to pull just a little bit when I'm cutting my thread tail so that I don't have to get flush. These scissors have a nice curved blade. I can get really close, but I prefer to pull up just a little bit on my thread. See that little wrinkle? So that I can cut here and those threads will still pop back inside my sandwich. If I didn't pull on it a little bit, I might be tempted to get really close to my fabric, and I don't want to take a chance on cutting my top. I'm going to do another one. Here's where I had pulled the quilt away to stop and restart some stitching. And I'm just going to pull that V of threads up until I see the gray of my bobbin thread. And then I can just snip just the tiniest little bit of that bobbin thread out. It gives me a loop with my top thread. Cut that loop. So now I have two separate places where my thread tails are loose. So I'm going to bring it up here a little bit better so you guys can see now that I've moved the camera away. Let's see. There you go. And by pulling on the end here, I have pulled that bobbin thread up already. See that loop of bobbin thread? And I just use my needle to pull it up. Sometimes it loosens up some of these stitches here, so I just go ahead and chase my bobbin thread. There we go. Pull on that bobbin thread just to make sure that those stitches there are tight. Again. Oh. Hit the camera. An overhand knot. I should have left myself a little bit more slack. Don't skimp on thread, gals, by trying to get short thread tails. You'll regret it when it's time to tie that knot. Tie the knot, stick the needle in. Anytime you're tying off thread ends and burying them, if you can go underneath a line of stitching, that's always good. It'll help your knot be a little bit more secure. Just popped it into that needle and pull it through and pull on those tails. Make sure that needle pops right inside that thread sandwich and trim them. So, should I do it one more time? Sure, why not? So pull on the tail, pull up the loop of the bobbin thread. Tie my knot. Can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Tied it off. Sticking that needle right where that bobbin thread comes up into my sandwich. There's the tip of the needle. Stick that loop right in there. Pull it through. Pop the knot. cut the tail. There you go. That's how I stop and start my stitches. That's how I handle my thread tails. I have never become all that comfortable with just starting a line of stitching and snipping my threads off. I like to use polyester threads. They're a little bit more slippery than cotton. I think it gives a neater finish to just go ahead and tie off and bury. It certainly takes a little bit more time, but as you see, it doesn't take a lot of time. And thread snips make it very easy. I've got these scissors on a badge holder. If you work someplace where you have a badge on your shirt, got this at Walmart for maybe $1 or $2. Holds my scissors. These are certainly not scissors that you would find at Walmart for $1 or $2. I love them. They're very nice. I can't remember what they are. Picked them up at my Janome dealership. And again, this is Amy from Amy's Free Motion Quilting Adventures. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for following the blog. The blog is Amy's Free Motion Quilting Adventures. The address is www.freemotionquiltingadventures.blogspot.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.